you guys for joining us today. I am Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. So, Skip, I start with you. How are you doing today?
Jenny, as we all know, Shannon Sharpe is coming to us live from the wine cellar of his palatial estate way up the hill from me here in Bel Air. And we now know also that Tom Brady is renting Derek Jeter's mansion in Tampa, but Shannon has a guest house bigger than Derek Jeter's mansion in Tampa.
No, Shannon does not have a guest house that's bigger than Derek Jeter, because
yes,
I saw a virtual tour of Derek Jeter's house. They call it St. Jetersburg. That's how big that house is. But I mean, with Skip, but Tom would need something like that. That's what he's accustomed to. Can you imagine Tom Brady? I mean, it sounds like, not to poo-poo, but can you imagine Tom Brady living in 10,000 square feet? I cannot. Unless it's a condo.
He's earned it.
He has.
Oh,
he has.
Shannon, must be nice. Enjoy your space. Let's start by continuing to talk about Tom Brady, because this is a guy who has famously said he wants to play until he is 45. But according to one columnist who said he had a lengthy conversation with Brady, he believes he could play until he's 48 years old. And then just this morning, Tom Brady went on the Howard Stern show, and he was pretty open and honest in the conversation, even admitting that the reason he's no longer attending OTAs is because Giselle wants him to carry more of the load at home, even admitting at times she'd been unhappy at home. So, Shannon, what is your reaction to all of this?
Well, Skip, I was, before we came on, I was reading through some of this transcript of what Tom Brady had said on the Howard Stern, and I was surprised how candid he was and how open and honest that he was and reflective about his time in New England. And I think that has a lot to do, it seems like a burden or a cloud has been lifted off of him. It seems like, Skip, you know, you and I used to talk about it all the time, that when you go to New England, it's almost like the movie Gattaca. Everybody's dressed the same, everybody walks the same, and they look the same. The movie was shot in black and white. And so it seems to me that once Tom Brady got out from under Bill Belichick, there was no repercussions or ramifications for anything that he could have possibly said. He was like, okay, now I can be speaking freely and openly and honestly. Skip, but for me, I think this is one of the reasons why Coach Belichick was so willing to move on. He knew that if he says, okay, Tom, you can play to 43, guess what was going to happen, Skip? Then here come 44, here come 45, here come 46, here come 47. And at some point in time, Coach Belichick knew he was wanting to get on. Now, the one thing that I do want to push back with Tom on is that he's like, well, it was Coach Belichick's decision. He knew that, you know, eventually he was going to have to go in a different direction. No, Tom. You fought tooth and nail at the time when you were there, because you went upstairs and talked to Mr. Kraft, because had you not done that, you would have been gone a couple of years before you actually left in 2020. So I'm going to give a little pushback there, Skip, but I'm not surprised. There's zero, to answer your question, Jenny, there's a 0% chance that Tom Brady is going to be playing in the National Football League at the age of 48. Now, he's, I think the oldest, Vinny Testaverde, I think, started 7 games at the age of 44. I think Warren Moon, started a few games at the age of 44. But Tom Brady, talking about being a full-time starter, he needs to get past 43. He needs to play his 21st season and see how that turns out and reassess it after that. And that was one of the things I think, Skip, started bothering Coach Belichick, because he wants his players to think in 1-year increments, not 2, 3, 4 years down the road. And I think he thought Tom was getting ahead of himself and wasn't so much focusing on year to year, but he was looking too far into the future. And that maybe rubbed Coach Belichick the wrong way.
Okay, I have a whole lot to say about everything you just said, but I'm going to go back to your pushback that no, Tom, you went upstairs to Daddy, to Mr. Kraft. This is 2.5 years ago, to say, wait a second, he's trying to push me out the back door. He wants to go forward with Jimmy Garoppolo. And obviously we know that it was Robert Kraft, according to the ESPN report, who pushed back on Belichick and said, no, you will trade Jimmy G. And we know the rest of that story. But I ask you, Shannon, before I launch into all the rest that you said, Did not Robert Kraft make the right choice 2.5 years ago to overrule Belichick then to keep Tom Brady? Did he not make the right choice?
Yes, Skip, it was the right choice, but that wasn't what Tom said. Tom said he was okay with Coach Belichick wanting to move on, when you and I both know he was not okay, and he still isn't okay with Coach Belichick moving on. He also said some other things that he said in the article. You might touch on it, and then I'll come back if you don't. But go ahead, Skip. I want to hear what you have to say about this one.
Okay. So the point was, Robert Kraft made not a good decision, a great decision to overrule Belichick and basically slap him on the wrist and say, no, you trade your young quarterback that you're now grooming to replace Tom Brady. And basically Belichick gave Jimmy G away for a second-round pick to Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. But the point was that from that point forward, Tom Brady took them to that Super Bowl that was upcoming, threw for a playoff record 505, put up 33 points, and it still wasn't enough to overcome Belichick's lack of defense that day as he benched Malcolm Butler, and they lost 41-33. Then the following year, they go back to the Super Bowl and obviously beat the Los Angeles Rams in that Super Bowl. So that's 2 Super Bowls that Kraft got out of that one decision. But I do agree with your assessment of Tom's quotes on Howard Stern this morning, because I was a little surprised. I thought he would be a little more honest, a little more painfully honest, a little more openly honest about the decay of his relationship with Bill Belichick. And from what I read of the transcript, like you, I haven't heard the full expanse of the interview. I heard snippets of it, but it sounded like Tom was taking the high road. In fact, the snippets of conversation I heard sounded like he was having a hard time even talking about it because he was being so careful. He was almost halting. He was stuttering a lot. Well, I was that kind of conversation from Tom Brady, which I rarely hear from him, because he was trying to be so careful as to not get trapped by the great Howard Stern, who's one of the great interviewers in the history of radio or television,
he is,
into saying something that he would regret. So to me, most of the conversation was Tom ducking and dodging and trying to say the right things about Coach Belichick, when you and I agree that that relationship had completely soured to the point of divorce. Now, back to Giselle. I had read, it's basically like People magazine sort of speculation over the last 4 years that their marriage getting a little rocky. We may even go back 5 or 6 years ago. And Tom's best quotes on Howard Stern were about how, she wrote me a letter about how much trouble our marriage was in. And I had to really focus on how to try to carry more of the load at home. That was the quote on Howard Stern. Well, the only way he knew to do that was cut out some of his football. So he cut out the OTAs, which are the off-season training programs that, most teams barely go through. That's not cutting out a whole lot of football, but maybe that was enough to A, save the marriage, and B, make it where they were coexisting, because it seems like in the last couple of years, Giselle has made some more peace with the fact that Tom basically has a, quote, mistress, and that's football, that he's going to spend as much time with his mistress of football as he does with her and the kids in his real marriage. So to me, it sounds like Tom has gotten it to a place where it's at least barely workable, where he can now tell Ian O'Connor of ESPN, I'm actually thinking about going beyond 45, and Ian is just sort of speculating, gut feeling, that Tom could go until he's 48 years of age. Well, Shannon, I've told you from the start of Undisputed, which was going on 4 years ago, this guy is going to shatter the mold. Age is just a number to him, that in the end, he's having so much fun playing football, and he's in such good health shape, and his body is still so fresh that I believe he can play until you say he's got 0% chance, but I remind you, you've been the guy all along who said 2016 will be his last year. 2017 said Shannon Sharpe last year. 2018 will be his last year.
Skip. Here's the thing, though. I would have been correct. I said it was going to be his last year in New England. Had he not gone upstairs to Mr. Kraft, would 2017 not been his last year?
Okay, but you were saying it's going to be his last year of football. Only until last year, which was 2019, did you give yourself the out of, no, I'm now saying it's going to be his last year in New England. But early on, the first 3 years, you were saying he's going to have to retire from football because he's going to hit the proverbial football wall.
He's played better, but Skip, knowing Coach Belichick and knowing how he is a football lifer, he knows what it's like to have a historically great quarterback and you don't have the bridge to the future. What happens to you? Miami is still looking for that bridge for Dan Marino. And Buffalo might have just found it with the quarterback, with Allen for Jim Kelly. But Skip, you know, if you have a historically great quarterback and you do not have a bridge, because everybody doesn't get Joe Montana, go to Steve Young. Everyone doesn't get 17 years of Brett Favre and go right to Aaron Rodgers. Coach Belichick believed that he had a rightful successor. And also, Skip, another thing. If you're having problems at home because your wife says, I need you to help more with the kids, you think she's going to be able to she's going to put up with this for another 5 years? Skip, notice now, he said he cut out OTAs. He didn't cut out OTAs until Coach Belichick did what he tried to do. Now, he didn't say when she wrote that letter, so we're not privy to that. But the OTAs did not come out until Coach Belichick did what he tried to do. So, because he always had this, we always knew there was an undercurrent going on with Coach Belichick and Tom Brady. And when the letter that he wrote, he's like, he's happy to be in Tampa, and he got coaches and teammates that want to go along for that ride. Well, the ride is, Skip, him. See, for me, Skip, a lot of times when I speak about Tom Brady, I'm speaking about something that I kind of went through similar, is that when the Broncos didn't offer me a contract in 2000 and I ended up going to Baltimore. Skip, the difference, the way I looked at it, it wasn't about longevity. I needed to have success. I needed to be able to show Mike Shanahan. I needed to be able to hand him my resume and says, look. So I led all tight ends in receiving 1 year. I went to a Pro Bowl 1 year. I won a Super Bowl. It wasn't about longevity. It was about success. Can Tom Brady have success? He can play 10 more years, but if he doesn't win it all, Skip, it does not matter. It does not matter. And that's what Tom Brady's up against. He's on a race for time to try to win, because that's what Coach Belichick is maneuvering all his pieces to do. He's moving all his pieces on the chessboard to try to capture and win that title. And if he can do that, he would have proved his point. Because you best believe, Skip, he's trying to prove that not only can he win, Skip, win 10, 11 games, that's what, yeah, that'd be great. But he's trying to win that ultimate prize. You know that, and Tom Brady knows that.
And I agree with that. That's the only common ground you and I have on this topic. We both believe that it wasn't so much about a bridge to the next quarterback. It was about Bill Belichick as he started to think about, gee, I'm going on 70 years of age. I've earned the right to show the world I can win without Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, it finally dawned on him, gee, I've also earned the right to show I can win without Coach Belichick. So I think neither you nor I, Shannon, have any problem with this quote-unquote divorce because it was inevitable. And it actually could be beneficial to both sides because they have both earned the right to prove they can race to the Super Bowl and beat each other out to see who wins the first Super Bowl without the other. And I love this. It's great for football and it's great for both men because they are the greatest at what they do. Again, I don't think Bill's the greatest coach, but he's obviously right at the top of the mountain. So let's see how great he can be without Tom Brady. And I want to see how great Tom Brady can be in Tampa And here's my point about Tom is, I didn't see any drop-off, any deterioration in his arm strength last year. And furthermore, once again, even though he had knick-knack injuries, he had a sore elbow, he had some shoulder problem for a little while, but nothing debilitating, nothing that cost him a game. So, Shannon, if you look at Tom Brady's career, he doesn't get nearly enough credit. He is Iron Man. He's like LeBron James in the NFL, except he had one glitch, and that was obviously in 2008, thanks to Bernard Pollard going low on him early in the opening game of 2008 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Tom Brady got wrecked. He tore his ACL and his MCL, and he missed the rest of that season. But other than that, he hasn't missed one other game in 20 years to injury except for the 2008 season. The only other games he missed were the 4 suspension games off Deflategate early that season.
Correct.
So if you look at the totality of his career, it's just 16, 16, 16. He just keeps playing 16 games every year, and he played 16 last year. So why can't he play to 48? Because he has learned the art of self-protection in the pocket. You say he's starting to flinch. Well, so is Aaron Rodgers. All the great quarterbacks learn to protect themselves. And if his receivers can get open quickly, he will find them quickly next year in Tampa, unlike his receivers' inability to get open last year in New England. So I say his ability is still at a Super Bowl MVP caliber level. So I don't see why he can't continue to shatter the mold, because I keep telling you, he's the one guy in sports. I've learned a long time ago, don't bet against him. Age is only a number. He's having more fun than ever playing football because he's in a much more fun place to play football with a whole new challenge and a whole new culture to recreate. So can he play 5 more? Sure, he could play 5 more years. It wouldn't shock me a bit.
No, he can't. Skip, stop. Yes, it would shck you. He's at 0% chance. But here's the thing, Skip. Do you understand in Bruce Arians' offense, he forces you to hold the football? Look at the guys that's in that offense. Look at Carson Palmer. Look at the guys that was his quarterback in the system and see how many hits they take. And you tell me a 43-year-old is going to be able to stand in the pocket because you got to push the ball down the field. You got to push it down the field. In order to push the ball down the field, you must put yourself in harm's way. So you mean to tell me he's going to be able to stand in front? Now, he already started to flinch. We're going to talk about that because I've been telling you this lately. Skip, let me tell you something. Now, I'm not telling you something someone told me. I'm telling you what I know. I played 14 years, and as I started to get older, I didn't want to take those licks anymore. I started looking for situations like, okay, I got to know when the journey's over a lot quicker. I needed to be able to read cover 2 a lot quicker because that backside safety is looking for that shot. Skip, I'm telling you, any offensive player, and I can't speak to defense because I didn't play on that side of the football, but any offensive player that tells you, a skilled player, running back, quarterback, receiver, that tells you as they start to get over, they still have that same thirst, that same desire to take those kind of shots, they're lying because I'm as tough as they came. I grew up as hard as anybody. And I pride myself on being physical and being able to go over to catch the ball over the middle. But as you start to age, those licks hurt more, you recover less. And no, Skip, he's not playing the 48. Get that thought out of your head. And another thing, Skip, for me, is that all I ever heard that when Mike Shanahan was there, yeah, Shannon is putting up great numbers, but it's Mike Shanahan's system. He's playing with John Elway. But I'm like, well, damn, guys, if y'all come watch me in the offseason and see the time that I put in, if you watch the way I eat when I'm away, if you watch the amount of, y'all not going to give me any credit. It's all them. It's all Mike. It's all John. So as much as I didn't want to leave, Skip, I needed to leave to show that I could do things outside of that system and I could do things outside of John Elway. I thank John Elway in my Hall of Fame speech because he was such a great mentor to me. He took me under his wing, helped me grow. Mike came in with the West Coast system, Skip. It was custom made for what Shannon Sharpe could do. But damn, I did have some ability. I could run, I could catch, I could understand coverages. So for me, Skip, going to Baltimore, although I didn't want to, was the best thing that ever happened in my career because it showed I can play outside of a system, outside of a head coach, outside of a quarterback, and still be successful. Tom Brady wants to prove the exact same thing that Shannon Sharpe proved 20 years ago, that he's more than Bill Belichick. He's more than a system. I'm Tom bleeping Brady. I don't need him. I don't need that system. And I'm going to show you. It's not about tenure. It's not about longevity. It's about success. How soon and how much success can Tom Brady have? That's all it's about, Skip. And that 48, that sounds good. You know, George Blanda was a kicker. He really wasn't a quarterback, Skip. He was a kicker at the age of 48, and he's the oldest player to ever play in the NFL. But if Tom Brady, and if you think Tom Brady is going to be taking those shots at 48, you crazy.
Nope, I'm not. And I'm sorry to say this, but Shannon Sharpe, you cannot put yourself in the same sentence with Tom Brady. You played in a different world at tight end than he plays in at quarterback, especially today at quarterback. Because as you are the first to admit and to complain about, today's game more than ever is rigged to protect the quarterback. It started in 2008 because of the Bernard Pollard shot going low on Brady's left leg that was planted as he threw. They changed the rules. Correct. You can't go low at all. If you go low and even touch the quarterback, it's 15 yards. We know all about all the other 15-yard penalties that have been instituted just to make sure the quarterback is basically playing flag football. So the point is that Tom Brady has mastered the art of avoiding the career-threatening shot. I agree with you. He flinches when there's pressure, and there was a lot of pressure last year in New England because his receivers were dead last in the NFL in separation. Nobody can speed read any faster than Tom Brady. So he goes 1, 2, 3, and they're all, nobody's open. And all of a sudden, here comes the pressure. Yeah, he's going to flinch. Aaron Rodgers leads the NFL in flinching. Go back and look it up. 12 years as a starter in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers has been top 5 nearly every year in what are called throwaways. If pressure comes and he doesn't like what he sees, he just throws it in the third row. He does that a lot more than Tom Brady until last year, which was Brady's first year to lead the league in throwaways. The year before, Aaron Rodgers had set the all-time NFL record for throwaways. And if you look at the expanse of his career, he's been second 5 times and third and fourth. He's been a top 5 throwaway guy from the start because Aaron Rodgers does not like contact, and I don't blame him. He understands that longevity at the quarterback position is getting rid of the football. He's not the old Kurt Warner who died for the cause. He would stand in there in the Mike Martz system and wait to the last second and get away the deep ball and get blasted in the face. And before you go, one last thing. Tom Brady last year on 20-plus yard throws down the field into tight windows was tied for first in the league in completion percentage at 41%. So don't tell me he didn't complete a whole bunch of deep balls into tight windows last year, and you watch what happens if he gets a modicum of protection from a better line this year in Tampa than he had last year in New England. Watch what happens.
Skip, his offensive line is not going to be much better. I mean, because you can look at the Patriots' offensive line was rated 12th. Tampa's rated 10th. So it's not like he's going from what he left in New England to the Indianapolis Colts or to one of these top premier pass protecting offensive line. That's not what he's going from. And you talk about he throw the ball away. Well, maybe Aaron Rodgers' receivers couldn't get open. And so instead of putting the ball in harm's way, he threw the ball away. But Skip, at the end of the day, it comes down to this. Bruce Arians' offense is about, like you said, Kurt Warner. You got to hold. Jameis took some shots in order to hold that ball to the very last second to throw the ball down the field to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. That's what Tom Brady is going to be asked to do. Now, if you're going to revamp the offense and make it what he had in New England and get the ball out of his hands quick, you're not going to get those big plays because what you complained about and others complained about were the Patriots' inability to get big plays. Skip, it's hard to get big plays when you're throwing screen slats drag routes. You have to push the ball down the field. Al Davis said, Skip, we want home runs. That's why he always got speed receivers, because he was always looking for the home run. Well, Tom Brady really never had a speed receiver other than Randy Moss. That's why when he got Randy Moss, everything was bombs away. Now you don't have Randy Moss. Now everything, you shallow fishing. The big fish are deep. You got to go out and get a big boat and go out deep to get the big fish. Well, he has big fish. The question is, Skip, does he have the stomach to ride the wave that comes along? Because it takes you a while to get out to the deep. So it's going to take you a while. It's going to take those guys a while to get downfield. Does he have the stomach to take those shots 3, 4, 5, 6 times a game? For the next 5 years, man, you better stop playing, Skip.
Shannon, you're missing the boat and missing the point, because Bruce Arians has football offensive genius about him. Tom Moore has genius about him, and he's advising this offense. Clyde Christensen's been around. Byron Leftwich is turning into a great young play caller. They will do what suits Tom Brady. Some will be deep, some will be short, some will be mid-range, but you're going to see a lot of empty backfield, empty sets with 5 receivers into the pattern, and trust me, somebody's going to get open like that, and Tom Brady will find them like that, and it's going to drive you crazy all next year, because I think Tom Brady is going to be in the catbird seat in the MVP chase next year, because I think Tampa is going to be a surprise team, and Tom Brady's going to be an MVP candidate, and here we will go for the next few years. And I think he'll play beyond just 2 years in Tampa, and it's going to be a long 5 years for Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed.
Welcome back to Undisputed. All right, guys. Following Mike Leach's controversial tweet about the coronavirus, Mississippi State's AD weighed in yesterday and said that Leach will expand his cultural awareness of Mississippi. So, Shannon, are you okay with the school's reaction to this?
Hell no. They let him off the hook. And like I said, Skip, if Mississippi State wasn't so abysmal, they'd have fired him for cause. This is a fireable offense. And if I had a son that was at Mississippi State and he did this, my son no longer goes there. Every black player should transfer. If you're thinking about going to Mississippi State next year, rethink that. Until Mike Leach is gone, every black football player said, no, I want no part of that. And then they'll have no choice. We'll see what type of football, we'll see what type of program you can field with no black athlete. Skip, this is what he said. His is his apology. I sincerely regret if my choice of images in my tweet were found offensive. I had no intention of offending anyone. What did you think would happen if you tweet an image of a noose? Now, the AD said he's going to get some cultural awareness. Skip, you see how they do us? You see this now? This is something very similar. When Riley Cooper said what he said. You remember what they did for him, Skip? They sent him away for the weekend to get some sensitivity training. That's how they do us. This is a fireable offense. So now you're going to have him some civil rights museum. Skip, let's just say for the sake of argument, I'm an arsonist. Why the hell you want to walk me through a building that's been burned down? I know what arson is. I know what a burned down building looks like. Mike Leach has a law degree. Here's a man that's 50 plus years old, maybe even 60. So now we got to give him some awareness, some training about civil rights in this country? Really? Mike Leach spent 5 years, Skip, in Valdosta, Georgia. I'm from rural southeast Georgia. That's in the southwest corner. That's near the Florida line. So now we got to give him some training because he don't know what it's like. He doesn't know about nooses and blacks in the South. Really, AD? Really? And you want us to believe that. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to give him some training. Every black kid should leave on the football team, should leave Mississippi State immediately. All black incoming recruits say, nah, I'm good, until that's the training I want him to have. I want him to have training on somebody else's job, not on this one. This is unacceptable. They copped out. Like I said, Skip, if they weren't terrible, they would have fired him. But no, I do not accept his apology. This is bull jive, and I'm still upset about this.
I echo everything you just said. And for the record, once again, on ESPN the day after Riley Cooper was caught on cell video yelling the most evil word in the English language, and that's the N-word ending in the hard ER, the one that white people use to demean and degrade black people and have for centuries. After that, I said, Riley Cooper must go. He must be cut immediately. And we've had the great Michael Vick on our show on Undisputed saying that as captain of that Eagles team, he now regrets that he didn't make a stronger stand. But they all liked Riley Cooper in the locker room, and Michael thought it would be open-minded of him because of all Michael had been through in his personal life. It would be open-minded to say, let's give him a second chance. But he didn't deserve a second chance. And they all regretted it in the locker room because once you use that word publicly, you have shown your, so to speak, true colors. Mike Leach showed his true colors just in his naivete. And I'm with you, Shannon, as I looked at his record last night. Wait a minute, 5 years in Valdosta in the state of Georgia, and you're that naive? And he even graduated from something called the United States Sports Academy, which is located in Daphne, Alabama, which is down on the Gulf Coast near Mobile. I don't know. Didn't you get any sensitivity training by osmosis? You know, weren't you just, couldn't you just see it and feel it, what was around you, and understand the history? This is a man who's an expert on 18th century pirates, but he doesn't understand the magnitude of what I consider the most evil symbol of the slavery era in this country. I can't even say the word noose. Yes. I just cringe when I say it, let alone for him to try to tweet it. And it was, obviously, he wasn't trying to make a racist statement in his tweet with the noose, but he made a bad joke about a husband and wife trying to get along through the quarantine with the noose. And it was just wrong on every level. But on the worst level, it was so wrong that I'm with you. It's a fireable offense because he should know better. Shannon, has not Mike Leach coached hundreds of African-American players all the way up the ladder in all of his stops at Iowa Wesleyan and in Kentucky and, as you said, Valdosta and then the University of Oklahoma and Texas Tech and Washington State? You know, hundreds of black players he's coached. Well, wouldn't you have any more awareness of that? And for the AD to try to pass it off as we're going to send him on sort of a listening tour of the campus where he can talk to our black students and get a better feeling about the history of ours. Baloney. What are you talking about? And I feel that we have to bring this up because it is part and parcel of Mike Leach's resume that in 2003, he read the book, what's the Donald Trump, How to Get Rich was the book in 2003 that Trump wrote. Leach read it on an airplane going to New York with his family for vacation, cold called Donald Trump, obviously this long before he was president of the United States, and connected with him, and they hit it off and became buddies. He supported him, Mike Leach did, as Trump ran for president, obviously, in 2016, and then he defended him during the impeachment hearings. So on his resume is the fact he is a big Trump supporter to the point of being a friend of Donald Trump's. Well, that alone, on top of this, makes it really dicey for Mike Leach to be coaching in Starkville, Mississippi, and he already had one of his black players already go into the, as they call it, the transfer portal, and many have expressed their disgust over this via social media. So Shannon, I'm with you. The reason they're defending him is because Mike Leach can be a pretty good football coach for a while at a school as he was at Tech and at Washington State. He was two-time Pac-12 Coach of the Year. Why is that? Because he can teach and coach an offense that is so inventive. It's actually so crazy that it's hard to defend. It's hard to get ready for Mike Leach's passing attack in a week. So he has the capability of pulling off upsets in college football. And Mississippi State is so down right now, to your point, Shannon, that they're hoping Mike Leach could pull off a couple of upsets a year to sort of keep them afloat with their donors in the Southeastern Conference. But I just think this is going to be so damaging going forward with his recruiting or even with his keeping his current players on the roster and in the program that I'm not sure how you can continue to defend this going forward.
Yeah, my thing is, and people always say, well, it's just a symbol. If it's just a symbol, why don't you have that symbol up in your coach's office? When people say, oh, the swastika doesn't mean anything, why don't you have it up? Why don't you have a big old picture of a noose in your office? Why don't you have a noose hanging from your vehicle? Because you understand the meaning behind it. Skip, there's a reason why for so long when blacks in Jim Crow South and back before, what did they do? If they wanted to send a message, what did they do? They either burned the cross or they hung the noose. Why would they do that? Because they knew the meaning behind it. And for Mike Leach and for this AD, for him to say if he offended someone, and for this AD to say, well, we're going to send him to some civil rights museum. So what? So he can understand what a night pot is, and so he can understand what. Man, stop. Listen. Don't insult my intelligence. Just say, look, we're going to forgive him. We knew this was wrong. He knows this was wrong, but we're bad guys. We're tired of LSU and Alabama and Auburn, Georgia running through the SEC, getting all the big bowl games, and we got to be left to be bottom feeders. We're tired of this. We want to try to match up. And if we can beat one of these teams maybe once every other year, we'll feel good. That's what this is about. Skip, you know good and well, there's no, I can't even believe, Skip, in 2020 that we still have to have this discussion. I get it. There are some people, but not an educated person like this. And maybe he's an educated dummy, but I don't believe that's the case, Skip Bayless. I believe Mike Leach knew exactly what he was doing.
Well, he's almost 60 years of age, and he's been coaching for almost 40 years.
So he knows.
It's impossible that, you got to know this. And yet, I'll throw this on at the end of our conversation here, Shannon. I don't know if you noticed this, but it was about 2 weeks ago that Mike Leach landed his first big name sort of blue chip recruit. And it was that kid, Sawyer Robertson out of Lubbock, Texas, where Mike used to coach at Texas Tech, who's one of the top-rated drop-back passers in the 2021 class, has committed to Mississippi State. So I'm sure the AD is thinking, gee, we've now got a future. We've got to do everything in our power to keep Mike Leach afloat. But at the cost of what? How many recruits from this point forward are you going to lose because of the noose tweet?
Skip, just because someone deserves a second chance, that doesn't mean you deserve a second chance here. I'm all for second chances. But when you run a foul at one place, that doesn't mean they have to give you a second chance there. Get your cultural training on someone. Let someone else be responsible for that. And hopefully you've learned your lesson. Like I said, Mike Leach, you think you're slick, bro, but you got a little, you got a little undercurrent. The little whistles that you be subtly tweeting out, whistling out. I'm reading through you, bro. You can't fool me.
Welcome back to Undisputed. All right, guys, Mel Kiper was asked to combine this year's draft class with last year's. And how about this? He ended up ranking Kyler Murray behind Tua Tagovailoa, who, as we all know, has not taken an NFL snap and is coming back from injury. And Shannon, I know you are a Tua fan, but do you actually believe that Tua is going to have a better NFL career than Kyler?
I do. I like Tua. I like Tua better than I like Kyler Murray and Joe Burrow. Skip, Tua was 22-2, playing in the SEC, and both of his losses were to the eventual national champion. Clemson in the national title game, and he lost to LSU. Other than that, he's unblemished. And you know what the SEC is. It's the preeminent conference in all of football. is the closest thing that we have to the NFL. And that's why they go down there and get those guys from Alabama, from Georgia, from LSU, from Auburn, from Mississippi, from all those schools, because they know they compete against the best. So they know what it's like to come to that next level, because you're going to have to compete against the best. Skip, look, when I look at Tua, the thing that I like most about him, Skip, is that he did what he did for more than a year. Joe Burrow had an outstanding, I believe it's the greatest college seasoned. I'm not saying he's the greatest college player, but he had the greatest college season ever. Kyler Murray had one of the 2 or 3 greatest college seasons ever, but they only did it 1 year. Now, we remember what Joe Burrow was his junior year. Nobody thought Joe Burrow was even capable. I don't even know if Joe Burrow thought he could dream of a season like which he had, Skip. But all we saw was Tua do it game in and game out. Skip, his ability to throw the football is second to none. His anticipatory skills is second to none. Skip, when you play in the NFL and you play quarterback, it's not about guys getting open. You must throw them open. If you try to throw a football to a guy and he's open, by the time you release that ball, it's either going to get knocked out or it's going to get picked. His skills are as good as we've seen, Skip. We see the highlights, but I watched him in actual games throwing the ball. Skip, he's good. He's as good as advertised. I believe he's a Pro Bowl player. Go to the right situation. I believe he can lead a team to the promised land. That's how much confidence I have in Tua. And so I have no reason to believe, Mel Kiper's been doing this, Skip, probably equally as long as I've been alive. Because as long as I can go back, Skip, I've always heard about Mel Kiper and drafting. And so he's seen a lot. He's broken out a lot of tape, watched a lot of guys. But for me, Tua is the better of the 3 quarterbacks, and there's no question in my mind about that.
You conveniently left out Tua's performance in the SEC championship game in 2018 when he was abysmal against Georgia that day. I don't know how that escaped your mind. He didn't get the L in that game.
Did he win?
Because somebody named Jalen Hurts. Did he get the dub? Jalen Hurts came in and saved the day in the fourth quarter by outscoring Georgia 14-0 and showing you that he didn't deserve to lose his job, and he showed you that again last year at the University of Oklahoma. But the point is, Tua was 10 of 25 that day against Georgia for a grand total of 164 yards with 2 interceptions and a QBR of 29 on a scale of 0 to 100, 29. That was an abysmal big game performance by Tua, and he wasn't a whole lot better in the national championship game against Clemson when his QBR was only 59 with 2 more interceptions, and he wasn't all that much better last year at Tuscaloosa. He threw for a whole lot of yards because he had 4 receivers who well could go in the first round of the NFL draft, but he threw 2 more interceptions and had a QBR of only 59 at Tuscaloosa. So I just gave you 3 big games in which he was scary bad if you're projecting him into the National Football League. Now, let me make it scary worse. Tua has had, according to Rex Ryan on ESPN, 5 surgeries while he's played college football. He had a broken index finger on his throwing hand. Then he had a knee injury that was sort of undisclosed how bad it was. He had a quad pull that was bad that cost him games. He had 2 surgeries on his ankles called tightrope surgeries. And then he had the career-threatening hip surgery on a fractured hip. And I don't know if he's fully recovered. I know he keeps putting out hype videos. And I start to wonder, why do you have to keep showing us how healthy you are? Maybe you could just let it speak for itself when it's time to find out. I know we're in a bad period right now when you can't actually go to the teams to have their doctors examine you, but it feels like he's maybe overhyping himself. Kyler Murray, Shannon Sharpe, played all 14 games at the University of Oklahoma that year without getting hurt. He played all 16 games for the worst team in the NFL last year, the Arizona Cardinals, because they got to pick him because they had the first overall pick, with one of the worst offensive lines in the National Football League. He played all 16 games. He has been durable. He is a little big man. And again, Tua is not exactly a huge man himself. He's 2 inches taller than Kyler, at about 6 feet tall, and Tua weighs maybe 10 more pounds than Kyler. But Kyler plays strong. And Kyler showed you last year that not only was he a better college player in the big games than Tua, but in the biggest games that Arizona played last year, he played big, twice against the 49ers, nearly beat them at Arizona. And they won 5 games and tied 1 last year, and I still don't know how they did it. They almost beat Baltimore at Baltimore. They tied Detroit to start the year in their opener. And then the wins, they did win at Cincinnati, which is hard to do when you were the worst team. Then they beat Atlanta at home. They won at the Giants. They beat Cleveland. They won at Seattle.
Wow.
I thought he had an extraordinary year. He was 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, but he ran for 7 more touchdowns. So he had 27 total touchdowns, which for a rookie was extraordinary. So Shannon, he's already on the way.
Hold on. So what did you say his stats were for last year? His touchdowns? How many touchdowns did he throw for?
20, but he ran for 7 more because he can fly.
Oh, he threw for 20 touchdowns. Okay. Yeah. Do you realize over the last 10 games, he had 13 touchdowns and 8 interceptions and averaged 206 yards passing? That's over the last 6 games. Can you tell me the team that Kyler Murray beat in college that was the equivalent of LSU, Oklahoma, or Georgia? Can you tell me the team that he beat?
You mean, well, he played for Oklahoma. So what, I mean, he had 2 big shootout games with Texas.
No. Stop it. I said, can you tell me the team that he beat in college that's the equivalent of Georgia, that's the equivalent of LSU? Can you tell me the team that he beat that was the equivalent of those? See, I didn't mention that how he came off the bench and won the national championship game that Jalen Hurts got credit for because he started. I didn't mention that. But since you want to go there and bring it up about how Jalen Hurts came in and won the SEC title, tell me how. Now, which is bigger? Coming in off the bench and starting the second half of never starting a game in college and winning the national championship, or coming in and starting, say, playing 2 quarters after you've been a starter your whole career. Now, which is more difficult? But I need you to get back and tell me, who did Kyler Murray? Because we saw what happened when he gets to Alabama. He got spanked. And we see every year Oklahoma, when they go against somebody from the SEC, they get spanked. Got spanked.
Timeout. Is 417 total yards against Alabama getting spanked? 417 against Alabama. Wow. He threw for 308 with 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 109 with another touchdown. So that's 417 combined yards without his best receiver, Hollywood Brown, who couldn't play in that game.
Well,
so wait a second. You don't have your go-to guy, just the way he didn't have DeAndre Hopkins last year in Arizona, and you put up 417 combined yards against St. Nick's defense in the national semifinal? Extraordinary. I think that's beyond anything Tua ever did for Alabama.
Oh, Skip. Now, you just told me Tua played terrible. He threw for 410, 4 touchdowns, and had another 30 yards rushing against LSU. They scored 41 and lose, and you told me he played terrible. But you're going to talk about a guy that got beat by 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns on a neutral field. But you're going to talk about he played great. Come on, Skip, now.
Wait a second. If you actually watched Tua against LSU at Tuscaloosa,
I did.
He was 21 of 40. 21 of 40. He missed throw after throw after throw. He's got Jerry Jeudy and Ruggs, first-round picks. He's got Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, who well could be first-round picks a year from now. I'm sorry, that's a track team. That might be the all-time greatest receiving core we've ever seen in college football. And you were 21 of 40? And Najee Harris caught like 60 balls himself coming out of the backfield. 21 of 40, your QBR was 59 in that game. That's not exactly rising to the occasion.
So let me ask you a question. is Hollywood Brown. So if I'm not mistaken, Hollywood Brown was a first-round draft pick. Do you believe CeeDee Lamb will be a first-round draft pick? Because those are the guys that Kyler Murray was throwing to. Now, you keep talking about what Tua was throwing to, but Joe Burrow had Jamar Chase, Jordan Jefferson, Marshall, Thad Moss. Are any of those guys going to be high draft picks? I just need to know. Because you make it seem like only Tua had guys to throw the ball to. But Joe Burrow also had guys. He had the Biletnikoff Award winner. He had the SEC, had a guy that caught, two guys caught for over, what? You throw 60 touchdowns, you got a bunch of guys that got 15 or more touchdowns receiving. And CeeDee Lamb, was he any good? Hollywood Brown, was he any good? What about those running backs that Kyler Murray was throwing to? Skip, this notion that only Tua had talent, skill players to throw to, now you know you being disingenuous. Because Kyler Murray had guys also.
No,
and so did Joe Burrow. No. But I believe Tua's skills throwing the football is better than both of those two guys. And had he not gotten hurt, he would have been the #1 pick overall.
Okay, again, Kyler Murray against Alabama had only CeeDee Lamb, period, end of story. It was one go-to receiver, while Tua has had 4. And you can name how many cases of Diet Dew you'd like to bet on this. Alabama's 4 receivers will cumulatively go higher in the draft than LSU's 4 best receivers from this past year. Would you like to make that bet?
Yeah, no, Skip. I'm not denying that Tua had unbelievable talent to throw the ball to. But Skip, you see when he was out, imagine, I believe had he not gotten hurt, they still would have made the college football playoff. But even though the young guy came in and played well against Auburn, Skip, that's not Tua. They would have blew the doors off Auburn. We know that. It would have been very interesting to see, are they the 4 seed and play LSU again here at the Chick-fil-A Bowl for an opportunity to face Clemson in the national title game? Because that's what probably would have happened. But we'll never know. But looking at these guys and watching these guys in college, I like Tua better. I believe his ability to throw the football for distance and accuracy is better than is better than Burrow and Kyler.
Shannon, how can you defend Tua's fragility, his brittleness, his inability to stay healthy? How do you defend that?
Skip, a lot of it is just luck. I mean, Kyler Murray got hit 48 times. He got sacked 48 times. Do you believe he can take, say, over the next 10 years, 48 sacks a season? You believe that? A man that size can take that kind of punishment? Because I do not.
Shannon, he's a little power plant. He is really put together. It's why he had so much power as a hitter in baseball. It's why Billy Beane decided to spend or waste a first-round pick, because Billy Beane thought that Kyler Murray could be an all-star baseball player. If you watch the way he carries himself with this elite, almost arrogant poise of somebody who just knows he's better than the rest on the football field or the baseball field. I don't get that kind of body language from Tua. I don't think Tua believes in himself the way Kyler believes in himself. Just on intangibles, if you just watch the two carry themselves, you'll say, I'll take that guy.
I won't. Give me Tua. And somebody's going to be very, very lucky to get Tua, because he's going to be in their program for the next 10 to 14, 15 years, and they're going to win a lot of football games.
So the point is, if we're throwing Joe Burrow into this, I'll give in to this. I think that Joe Burrow, just because of his pocket passing skills, I believe that he could be a little better long-term than Kyler. But Kyler's still going to be very good. Kyler already is tied with Tom Brady in the MVP odds for next year. I think that's wrong, but he's tied with him for 9th best MVP odds because he got DeAndre Hopkins. So to me, there's rampant speculation that Miami at 5 wants, they want Joe Burrow. They want to trade up with all their draft arsenal of picks to try to trade with Cincinnati, because even they agree that Burrow is better than Tua. So if you want to go Burrow, I'll go Burrow. But again, Kyler is better than Tua.
Welcome back to Undisputed. Tom Brady was on the Howard Stern show this morning and was asked if he was bitter about Belichick and the Patriots moving on from him. Brady responded by saying, quote, "I was an older athlete and he started to plan for the future, which is what his responsibility is. And I don't fault him for that. That's what he should be doing." So, Shannon, what do you make of all this from Tom Brady talking about his former coach?
That's easy for him to say now because he's elsewhere. Because when Coach Belichick tried to plan for the future, he fought him tooth and nail. That's the only reason that he went upstairs and talked to Mr. Kraft, and Mr. Kraft made Coach Belichick take Jimmy G. It's easy to say now, Jenny and Skip, but we know deep down in his heart of hearts, he didn't want this to happen. He wanted to be the quarterback for the New England Patriots. He wanted to be one of these guys that spent his entire career. Although most people, there will come a time that they will either trade you or they will release you. And if you want to continue playing, you must go play for another team. Everybody tried to tell Tom Brady that, and Skip Bayless did not want to listen. If it happened to Joe Montana, if it happened to Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith, we talk about the all-time greats, had to leave and go elsewhere. Oh, but not Tom Brady. Yes. And he said he had conversation with Coach Belichick that no one should be privy to. Well, if you had those conversations, you know what Coach Belichick was thinking. Coach Belichick never Skip, when he kept talking about 45, I said, Skip, I keep hearing him say 45. I hear Mr. Kraft say, yes, 45. I never heard Coach Belichick give that ringing endorsement. That's the guy you got to convince. He couldn't convince it. Coach Belichick, watching the tape, watching Tom Brady in practice, Skip, whether you believe Coach Belichick is the greatest or not, I think he's earned the right to say, you know what? I see things that's coming, and I want to get out from under this before it happens. Coach Belichick saw this. Now, Tom doesn't want to admit it. He's like, oh, that's his job to plan for the future. But in planning for the future, Tom, you wanted that future to be with you. And you're being disingenuous if you said, oh, no, I was fine with. No, you weren't. No, you were not. You wanted that contract extension. You didn't get it. You was upset that Coach Belichick tried to move on without you, and you went upstairs and you overrode it. And I said it at the time. You won that round. You won't win the next one.
Okay, but Shannon, once again, you are revising history, because the message I'm getting from Tom Brady is that he wanted out. And you always say, it happens to the greatest. Well, wait a second. The 49ers traded Joe Montana to Kansas City. The Dallas Cowboys said no to Emmitt Smith when he finally went to Arizona and said, I'm going to pile on a few more carries while running out of bounds for the Arizona Cardinals. And it was, excuse me, sort of a pathetic sight. This was Tom Brady saying in his last contract with New England, you do not have the ability anymore to franchise tag me. I'll sign the contract if you will say no franchise tag. So remember, one thing that Tom said on Howard Stern this morning was he knew going into last year, it was his last year in New England, and it's coming across to me that's by his choice as well as by their choice, or at least Belichick's. And obviously, Belichick is not saying that Brady can't play anymore. Belichick is just saying to me, I have earned the right to show the world as I approach 70 years of age that I can go win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. I'm sick and tired of Tom Brady getting the Lions' share of the credit for our 6 Super Bowl championships and 9 Super Bowl appearances. And I don't begrudge him that. I don't condemn Belichick for saying, I need to move on for me, not because he can't play, because I want to show the world I'm better than Tom Brady. And Tom Brady is saying, oh, I actually needed a fresh start in a new place with a new coaching staff where I can restart, regenerate, have a new challenge, and make football fun again. Obviously, as Ian O'Connor wrote the other day on ESPN.com, Brady felt like he had been Belichicked for 20 years. He was tired of living under the iron-fisted rule of Bill Belichick, which was one reason that today on Howard Stern, I kind of hope that Tom would let his hair down a little more and be a little more painfully honest about the divorce with Belichick. But remember, Shannon, Tom is a huge Howard Stern fan. Tom once took a tour of the Howard Stern facility, of his offices and his studios. And Howard, I think, wasn't there at that time, but he just was such a fanboy of the show that he just wanted to see it and feel it. And Tom actually sounded a little nervous to me in the clips I've heard so far on the show today, because I think he's a little intimidated, believe it or not, by the great Howard Stern, who's one of the great interviewers we've ever had on television or radio. So to me, I wish he hadn't taken quite the high road that he took today, but it was mostly high road.
But he did drop a few F-bombs in there. He let his hair down a little bit and give it, you know, because you criticize, now, Jen, if I'm not mistaken, he criticized old Goat James, saying, why does he got to curse so much? And I think, Jenny, you might have even chimed in a few times. So, but Tom Brady dropped a few of these things in there. But, Skip, I want to ask you one thing. I want to know this. If the Patriots had come to Tom Brady and given him a 3-year extension, does Tom Brady, after the season, says, you know what, I want out, release me, or trade me? Do you believe that happened? Tom Brady want out because they didn't give him that extension. They said, this is what we'll do. We'll give you $8 million tacked on to your $15 million salary. That's it. Tom Brady is not telling the truth. If they had given him the extension that he wanted in 2018, 2017, 2018, or at the start of 2019, Tom Brady would still be the quarterback of the New England Patriots. It was because they didn't. And Coach Belichick didn't do that because he wanted to move on without him. That's what that is, Skip. Tom Brady's trying to rewrite history. Oh, I want it out. I'm all Belichicked out. You will never Belichick. Coach Belichick has not changed. The only thing that has changed about Coach Belichick, I saw a highlight when he first got the job, his hair was brown. Now his hair is a lot more white than brown. That's the only thing that's changed about that man. His personality, his persona has not changed. Tom Brady, he's the same Coach Belichick that Tom Brady met the first day he went to minicamp is the same Coach Belichick that he is now. Tom Brady is not there. He didn't get the extension, and he saw Coach Belichick writing in big, bold letters on the wall, I want you gone. That's it. Now, we can dress it up and say, oh, Tom wanted out. Oh, Tom was looking for a fresh start. But you and I both know, had he got that contract extension at any point in time in the last 3 years, Tom Brady would still be the quarterback, and he would not have requested a trade, and he would not have requested to get cut. So stop this.
I'm going to start it again because I'm going to quote the great Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe maybe 2 weeks ago on Undisputed. Shannon Sharpe told me, Bill Belichick let the Patriots get old right before your very eyes. You were talking about the roster. Get old right before your very eyes. Did you not say that?
Right. I did.
Okay, so my point is, Tom... Go ahead.
No, but what I wanted to say, Skip, I wanted to say Coach Belichick, he likes veteran players because he likes guys that, you know, sometimes, a lot of times, Skip, rookies, you have to go over and over things with them. Coach Belichick, he likes veteran players. Well, Skip, when you get veteran players that's 25, 26, and not guys that's 21, 22, they get to the age of 30, obviously a lot quicker. And that's what has happened. Kyle Van Noy, he didn't draft Kyle Van Noy. He didn't draft Jason McCourty. He didn't draft some of these other guys. He got them later. And so they got to that benchmark. Seems to be 30 is the new benchmark in the NFL. I guess as Coach Walsh said that was his benchmark. They got there sooner. But yes, that's what happened, Skip. And everybody, oh, he's a great talent evaluator. He's a great drafter. No, he's not. Coach Belichick really hit the hammer, hit it out the park with basically 3 guys, Skip. He got it right with Tom Brady first. He got it right with Richard Seymour next, and he got it right with Rob Gronkowski. Other than that, Skip, you can't say, well, oh, look what he got with Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman was a Shannon Sharpe, a camp body. You get a guy in the 7th round, Skip, you're not drafting him to be on your, oh, yeah, that guy's going to contribute heavily, and he's going to be one of the reasons that we win. That's not what they do. And just like with Tom Brady. Now, he did draft Tom Brady, but if you ask Coach Belichick, oh, I knew Tom was going to be what he was going to be as a 6th round draft pick, Skip, that is a lie.
I agree. Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round to be a camp body. So what happened last year, Shannon Sharpe? It felt to me, and I'm not being a hypocrite about this because I said it all year on Undisputed, it looked like the supporting cast Belichick supplied Brady with last year felt almost sabotagey to me. It was so bad that 39-year-old Benjamin Watson was his go-to tight end in place of Gronk. What? 39-year-old Benny Watson? What are you doing? And look at, he goes and gets Mohamed Sanu for a 2nd-round pick. And right away, Shannon Sharpe is saying, he can't play. It looks like he's got a piano on his back. Then he cuts Josh Gordon, who looked like he had a piano on his back. And all of a sudden, Antonio Brown came for a minute. Then he flamed out and burned his bridge to Robert Kraft. Brady had nobody. He had broken down, beat up Julian Edelman as his go-to receiver who led the league in drops. I still believe that Brady looked at the near future in New England and said, I don't want that anymore. That's garbage. I got to go somewhere where I can win at least one more Super Bowl. Oh, wait, look at what Tampa's got. Bruce Arians, Tom Moore, 4 receivers better than anyone that I had at New England last year. An offensive line that Pro Football Focus ranked 7th overall last year. Wait a second. Todd Bowles' defense was really coming alive at the end of the year. I could go win a Super Bowl in Tampa. So to me, it was Tom wanting to leave as much as Bill wanting him to leave. And again, it was sort of mutual on their parts. They both wanted to go say, watch what I can do without you. So I'm great with it, but don't put it all on Belichick condemning Brady that he can't play anymore, because that is not what happened.
Well, I also think what sped up the process, Skip, is that when Tom Brady looked around and he looked to his left and he looked to his right, I can't win with y'all. I can't. Skip, as long as he was willing to stomach, he was willing to tolerate all the open and blatant disrespect that Coach Belichick showed towards him, as long as he felt he could win a title. You think Coach Belichick all of a sudden, Skip, started being this way towards Tom in year 18, year 19, year 20? No, he's always been that way. But the one thing that Tom Brady always felt is that I got a chance to win a title. For the first time last year, I think he looked around and said, I can't win. I got no Gronk. I got no Josh Gordon. Is not what he once was. Look at my tight ends. No Hogan, no Amendola. I can't win. And for the first time, he says, you know what? It might be time. Coach Belichick, you want me out? Well, maybe, hey, I'll help you. I'll exit. You might be pushing me, but it's not like I'm fighting you. It's not like I'm leaning back saying, no, stop pushing me. I'll help you. I'll walk out the door.
Yeah, right. No, I agree. And my final point on this is that you have always said that Bill Belichick was the greatest thing that ever happened to Tom Brady. And I always said, no, it's reverse. It's the other way around. But right now, Bill Belichick is the greatest thing that ever happened to Tom Brady in his second life in pro football, because right now, Tom Brady is obsessed with showing Bill Belichick he was wrong and that I can go win a Super Bowl without you. So right now, it's Belichick motivating Tom Brady in ways Tom Brady has never been motivated before.
All right, guys, the NFL has confirmed that the draft will still happen at the end of the month, with teams communicating virtually. And some teams have reportedly voiced some concern about the fact that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones will be able to work side by side because they're family from the same location. So, Shannon, I start with you. Do you have a problem that Jerry and Stephen can do this thing together while in isolation?
Absolutely not. Hell no. Skip, did you see the draft they put together last year? It was horse manure. So they should let them be together again, Skip. Do you see the draft that the Cowboys have? What teams are doing, Skip, is that they're trying to make excuses when they bomb again in the draft. And Skip, they bomb every year. We've seen draft rooms. The owner, the head coach, position coaches, scouts, general managers, everybody's in the room. And they still get it wrong. Now they're trying to make an excuse for if we get it wrong this year, this is why. And if the Cowboys get it right, Jerry and Stephen were together. Man, stop this. Worry about you. Don't worry about what the Cowboys, I don't care if they got Charlotte, if they got Jerry Jr., they got Stevens. I don't care who they got in the draft room. I'm worried about what I'm worried about. Skip, the way the draft normally works, you have your board already set up. Now, if this guy's available, we're taking him. Now, we know the draft, you get somebody, Skip, might fall that you're like, there's no way we thought when we're picking, this guy would be available. And you grab him. Other than that, what are we talking about? Man, y'all need to stop making these excuses for when you bomb in the draft. You've been doing it for years. Whether you're on virtual, whether you're next door, I don't care. You mess up, and they just looking for a reason, Skip, well, Jerry and Stephen, because they're related, they can be in the same room. Skip, this is one of the most ridiculous things, but it just goes to show you, when we want to find something to complain about, Skip, we'll find the dumbest, the bull-jivest stuff to complain about when there's nothing here. There's nothing here.
Okay, time out. Before I respond to Jerry and Stephen having an advantage because they're related sitting side by side, which is insane to me. I gotta counter you. You said, what did you call last year's draft? Like garbage? You realize they didn't have a first-round pick last year because it went for Amari Cooper. And as many problems as I had with Amari on the road last year, yeah, I'll take him as a first-round pick because he changed Dak Prescott's life. And then look at Connor McGovern. Nobody really knows him yet. No, I don't. It seems like they swung and missed, but maybe he's just a late bloomer because he's very young and undeveloped yet. So maybe he's sort of an ugly duckling, if you will. So Connor McGovern, they got out of Penn State. He played center at Penn State, and I think he's going to fit right in for Travis Frederick. Will he be as good as Travis? I think he'll be credible. And then remember the guy you called Mike Pollard in training camp because you were making fun of him? Tony Pollard can play as a backup, right, to Zeke. So I think I got that one right off one preseason game. I said, that kid can play. And by the end of the year, I think you said, that kid can play. So I don't think that was a garbage draft last year. And he's all right. Yeah. Okay. So obviously, Jerry Jones has had final say in every Cowboy draft going back to 1989. Jerry always bragged about how he coached the coach. That he told you, he sort of governed Jimmy's emotions, that Jimmy could go a little high and a little low, and he would say, no, how about this? How about that? Oh, that's a good idea. Go for that. And Jerry, all through, let's just do this decade. We just had the team of the decade. I think Jerry, if I'm going to give him credit for final say, has drafted extremely well over this decade. So again, back to the question, Jerry and Stephen have no advantage. There are these things called cell phones. There is this thing called the computer, the internet. There's this thing called Zoom. There's this other thing called FaceTime. I don't know. Everybody can just have instantaneous communication virtually. So I don't know what advantage you have side by side. Obviously, Will McClay helps build the draft board for Dallas. He makes recommendations that Jerry has to sign off on. But the classic one was 2014. Remember, Jerry wanted Johnny Manziel, and it was the 16th overall pick. And I didn't blame him because I love Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M, but I kept saying, if you tell me he's got any substance abuse problems, I am out. And he did, and I'm out.
Right.
But Jerry finally was out in the 11th hour because I believe Stephen and Will McClay said, hey, this kid at Notre Dame, he could be a perennial Pro Bowler. And they took Zach Martin 16th overall. That's an all-time steal. He's still 29 years of age. He's made 6 straight Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pros. My goodness. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame.
All decade.
So I think he got a Hall of Fame offensive guard. Yeah, all-decade team. And if we go back to 2011, the other all-decade player is the left tackle, Tyron Smith. And again, they could have had J.J. Watt with the that was the 9th overall pick. I'll take Tyron Smith over J.J. Watt. He's stayed healthier, even though he's had his back issues, but he's mostly played, and he's been a perennial Pro Bowl player. And then Travis Frederick in 2013, they traded all the way back to 31 and still landed him out of Wisconsin. He was on a Hall of Fame arc until he had his autoimmune deficiency syndrome, and they lost him. And maybe, God bless him, I'm knocking on wood here, maybe he'll bounce back at some point. But then I look at the rest of the drafts. Byron Jones at the 27th overall. But again, I wasn't a big fan because he can't catch the ball or go intercept the ball. But again, it was a good pick in the first round. He just got the highest cornerback money in the history of the league. 2016 draft it's a Hall of Fame draft. I mean, it's obviously Zeke and then Dak in the 4th round, but they got Jalen Smith on a flyer in the 2nd round and Malik Collins, and I can just go down the list, Anthony Brown all the way down in the 6th round. It was loaded with starters and stars. And then 2017, they missed on Taco, but they got Awuzie and Jordan Lewis and Xavier Woods. They got 3 starters out of that. They got Wolf Hunter, Leighton Vander Esch the next year. They got Michael Gallup the next year. I think Jerry is drafted extremely well. Most people thought going into last year that the Dallas Cowboys were the most talented team in pro football. That's why I picked them to get to the Super Bowl last year. So to me, how can you make fun of this? How can you ridicule the decade of drafting, because he drafted 2 all-decade players and the most talented team in pro football? I think Jerry's done not just pretty well, he's done great.
But Skip, that's my point, is that Will McClay, Jerry Jones is not watching tape on no college players. Stephen Jones is not watching tape. That's Will McClay. That's the scouting job. They put this board together and says, okay, if it shapes up how we think, that's what everybody should be doing. It doesn't. Jerry can be in Bali. Stephen can be in Timbuktu. The board is set. True. All they're going to do, Skip, if this comes, and what do you do, Skip? If you want to make a call, what do? You pick up the phone. It's not like everybody's in one big room, like you got all 32 teams in one big room, and somebody walks across the stage and says, hey, man, we want to make a trade with you. Mm-hmm. What you do, Skip? You pick up the phone and you call. Okay, you run it by the NFL. They green light it. Okay, you good. So what's the difference? Skip, my only point, and what you mentioned, like their first round pick really was Amari Cooper because that's what they gave up to get Amari, was a first round pick. Okay, fine, I give you that. But I'm just saying is that teams are trying to make excuses, because if they fail and the Cowboys get this draft, let's just say, Skip, they draft, say, 2-3 Pro Bowlers in the 2020 draft. Everybody's want to point back, well, the reason why Jerry and Stephen, that ain't got nothing to do with it. They were together when they drafted some guys that didn't pan out. They were together. So look, you set your board how you set your board. If this guy's available, this is who we want. If something were to happen, Skip, there's a player that we had no idea, we never thought that when we're selecting would be available, you take him. What's the deal? What's the problem?
Okay, Shannon, here's how it works with Jerry. Let's just say Dallas is picking this year 17th. Let's just say, for sake of argument, that all of a sudden a receiver and a cornerback fall to 17, shockingly, that you say, man, we've got them both like 2-3 on our draft board. Jerry, should we go cornerback or receiver? We desperately need a cornerback because we lost Byron Jones, but hey, if we could get whoever, maybe it's CeeDee Lamb. I don't know who. Maybe it's Ruggs. I don't know which receiver
Ruggs,
where they
CeeDee
say,
Lamb, Judy.
we've got him so high. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe Judy falls to him. I don't know. You never know. There's always some curveball in the first round of the draft. What if they're sitting there? It's up to Jerry Jones to say yes or no, right or left, fork in the road. It always falls to Jerry to say, I think we need that cornerback. Let's go with the Florida kid, Henderson at cornerback. So, again, no other owner that I know of has that kind of final say down to the wire on draft night. But Jerry's also, as you know, the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. So, no, Jerry's not going to break down tape, but he's going to sit in on all the draft sort of reviews when they have their skull sessions about how the board's shaping up. He's going to hear the capsules on each of the kids they've ranked, and then he's going to go on his gut feeling. And you can say, Jerry doesn't really know football that well. Well, he played college football as a starting offensive guard on a national championship team, so he has some feel for it. And sometimes he just has a crazy gut feeling that can prove right. He's been proved wrong a lot. But I think with Will McClay's help through the last decade, they've been really good. And I'm going to trust Jerry on the night of that draft to make the right call.
Yeah, Skip, and you mentioned no other owner kind of wants that. They kind of want to do other things. That's why they hire people. Jerry hired people and paid them a king's ransom and then oversees and then micromanages them what they do. But here's the trick, Skip. Let's just say for the sake of argument, they're at 17 and one of these DBs or one of these receivers are still there. Somebody calls Jerry, you move back, we'll give you swap with us. Take our first round pick, which is 25. We'll also throw in a 2 and a 5. That's where, but Skip, that's a phone call. That's what was going to happen whether Jerry and Stephen was in the same room at home or in a draft room in Valley Ranch. That doesn't change.
I agree. And to your point, I've heard reports that maybe that they want to expand the time that you have in the first round because it's all virtual. Well, to your point, it was all virtual anyway. It's all on the telephone. I don't get it. So I don't think they need more time. I think they'll be just fine.
Tom Brady has famously said he wants to play until he's 45 years old. But according to one columnist who had a lengthy conversation with Brady, he believes TB12 could play until he is 48. So, Shannon, how delusional do you think Brady is to think he could actually play until 48?
Very delusional. I mean, it sounds good. Oh, my goodness, Tom Brady, we're going to see another 5 years of Tom Brady. But I believe there's a 0% chance that happens. Skip, for me, and I'm going to try to make this as simply as I possibly can. It's not about, Tom needs to understand, it's not about longevity. It's about success. Leaving one location when you feel you haven't been given the respect that you've earned, that you deserved, when someone thinks they can win without you, and the only reason you won was because of them, playing another 5, 6, 7 years does not prove anything if you don't win. Skip, it's kind of like a relationship. Skip, if you're in a relationship with someone and you break up, your objective is like, you know what? I'm going to find someone that's going to not only treat me better than what you treated me, but also look better. That's also more successful than you. It's not about, oh, well, I got this, yada, yada, yada. Tom needs to win. Skip, when I went to Baltimore, Skip, did I want to play, did I think I could play 5 more years? Sure. But I was taking it year by year. I wanted to prove I could still be a top-flight tight end and that, Skip, I thought we could win a championship, but I didn't know how good offensively. After seeing our defense in training camp, I knew we had a Super Bowl defense. I don't know what we can be offensively. But you win a championship, you go to a Pro Bowl, Tom Brady lead the league in passing, Skip, be it passing yards or touchdown. He gets to and win a Super Bowl. Skip, he done. He ain't got to play 6 more years. You proving it. Gotcha. Coach Belichick, the winner, and the winner is Tom Brady. It's as simple as that. 5 years doesn't matter. Winning a championship is the only thing that should concern Tom Brady.
Shannon Sharpe, you continue to fall in the trap of trying to compare what happened to you in pro football to what's happening to Tom Brady. It's a whole different world he lives in. He plays quarterback. He knows how to stay healthy at quarterback. The point that everybody misses is Tom Brady is Iron Man. We fixate on the 1 year he got hurt in the opening game, 2008, against Kansas City, when Bernard Pollard went low on the 15th offensive snap of the game for the Patriots and hit Tom Brady in his planted left leg and destroyed his ACL and his MCL, and he missed the whole rest of that season. That's it. He's never missed another game in 20 years except that season, and they instituted a new rule to outlaw that kind of hit on the quarterback, and it's the Tom Brady rule. So every other year, it's 16 games. He plays straight through 16 games last year. He is remarkably healthy. And what did he tell Jason Light the first time they talked on the phone, the first day you could officially make free agent contact? He said, I think we could have something here that's very special. Tom Brady still loves playing football. He still loves going home and watching tape. He's obsessed with winning football games because it makes him happy. You can't deny that. Why would Tom Brady want to stop to do what else in his life that would make him as happy? Nothing. He likes to play golf, but he's not obsessed with it like a lot of guys are. He loves being around his family, but he also has a sort of coexistence with football. He has sort of a mistress that is football. And Giselle knew this as soon as they entered into a relationship. She was going to have to make peace somehow, some way with the football side of Tom. It makes him happy.
Skip,
he's still on fire to go to the meetings. He's on fire to practice.
But what did she say? She said he told her he was only going to play another 8 years. That's what he told her. Now, if that's a lie, she told a lie. She said, Tom says, I'm only going to play this many more years, and then I'm coming home. Skip, for me, what I try to do is that I try to take the fans inside the mind of a professional football player. Skip, let me ask you this. He plays till he's 48. He doesn't win another Super Bowl. What has he accomplished? If the goal is not to win a Super Bowl, what good is playing? No. I didn't say that what he thinks. I said if he plays 5 more years, he doesn't win a Super Bowl. What has he accomplished?
Well, he could win MVPs.
Has he proven he can win without coaching?
Quarterback in football.
Whoa. So now it's about MVPs. Now, when Peyton Manning was winning MVPs and wasn't winning Super Bowls, everybody says Tom Brady cares about Super Bowls, not MVPs. Now, if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, he doesn't care about that, huh?
Shannon.
What is it? What did I thought?
Shannon.
Skip. I thought the goal was what? Go ahead.
The goal is to win 5 more Super Bowls. Trust me, in his heart of hearts, he thinks they're going to be a Super Bowl team like that. That team is loaded on offense. That team has the 14th overall pick in the draft and is loaded with more draft picks down the line. They're going to get better. They might get a stud offensive tackle in the draft. They might get a running back that would shock you. Who knows? Maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU would be there in the 2nd round. All of a sudden, you'd have your James White. They're a loaded football team that's going to be a factor next year. And after that, they're really going to be a Super Bowl factor. So my point is, he's onward and upward. He doesn't think the way everybody else thinks. He is shattering the mold. And as long as Giselle is coexisting with him, he lied to her because he was lying to himself. He thought, well, everybody tells me that in 8 years, I'm supposed to be finished with football. He's not finished. He's on fire to go forward in his second football life to show Belichick he was wrong and that he can out-Belichick and win Super Bowls, plural, before Belichick even wins one. I get it. I will not be at all shocked if he plays until he's 48. He might play until he's 50, depending on how well the Bucs evolve over the next 3 or 4 years. You might be looking at another dynasty in the NFC to equal the AFC dynasty of the Patriots.
All I'm going to say is this. I've been right. When I say Tom Brady's feelings and ego was bruised and that he was upset and it was going to happen, I was right. I'm telling you, it does not matter if he plays till he's 55. If he does not win a title, people will still say Tom Brady's success was tied to Bill Belichick, and he wants out from under that. That's why they separated. And the same thing for Coach Belichick. He wants to prove he can win. He can coach another 10 years. But if he doesn't win a title, it doesn't matter.
The Buccaneers will not only have a new quarterback in Tom Brady, but they also will have new uniforms they unveiled yesterday, and they look a lot more like the Bucs jerseys from the early 2000s. So, Shannon, do you like Tampa's new uniforms?
They don't do much for me, Skip. I'm a creamsicle guy, Skip. Look, I get what they're trying to do. They won three playoff games, Skip, when they had those uniforms. But you do realize, Skip, it's not the uniform, it's the players in the uniforms. You could have put Sharpe and Brooks and Rondé Barber and Leach in all white, and they still were going to be good. They won 3 playoff games that year. They won 3 the other 43 years in their playoff history. So, look, I get it. And Tom Brady, he's going to sell a lot of jerseys and yada, yada, yada. But stop this. Stop. It ain't no blast from the past. You're 387. So what past you got, Skip, that you want to go back to except that one glorious year?
This sounds like meant to be fate to me. You decide before Tom Brady decides on Tampa to go back to your Super Bowl era uniform, because they did win a Super Bowl in virtually these same uniforms. And all of a sudden, Tom Brady then decides, I want you, Tampa Bay, and I think we can go to the Super Bowl next year, which is going to be played in our home stadium. No home team has ever played in a home Super Bowl, and here comes Tom Brady on top of the decision, after the decision, to return to those uniforms. I love this. It feels meant to be, and it feels like you are getting more and more frightened by Tom Brady winning in Tampa.
Yeah, if they had a prime Sharpe and Brooks and Simeon Rice and Rondé Barber and John Lynch, sure, I would be shaking, but I'm not. Creamsicles or nothing.
Skip. It's a good look. All right, that's going to do it for us. The Herd is next. Don't forget, join us again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern on FS1. See you guys tomorrow.